The Diplomat Who Never Reached the Station. A true crime horror story from June 11th, 1900. The Last Ride. June 11th, 1900. Beijing, China. The city was changing. Not slowly, not quietly. It was changing like a storm rolling across a dark sea. Foreign diplomats were receiving frightening reports. Railway lines were being attacked. Telegraph wires were being cut. Crowds were gathering in the streets. Rumors spread faster than truth. And somewhere inside the city, a Japanese diplomat named Sugiyama Akira climbed into a carriage. He had a destination. He had a mission. But what he didn't know was that he was riding toward death. Within hours, he would be captured. Within hours, he would disappear. And by nightfall, his body would become one of the first shocking symbols of a rebellion that would terrify the world. But the most disturbing part of this story is not how he died. It's that warning signs were everywhere. And nobody realized how late it already was. Before we continue, if you enjoy true crime, historical mysteries, and real horror stories that time almost forgot, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because tonight's story takes us into a city where fear ruled the streets, where rumors became weapons, and where one man took a journey from which he would never return. Chapter 1. A City on the Edge. At the beginning of the summer of 1900, Beijing felt like a city holding its breath. The Boxer movement was growing rapidly. Its members believed foreign influence was destroying China. They blamed outsiders for many of the country's troubles. Soon, anger became violence. Churches were attacked. Foreign properties were threatened. Travel became dangerous. Every day brought fresh reports of unrest. Inside diplomatic circles, concern was growing. Yet many still believed the situation could be controlled. Many believed reason would prevail. They were wrong. The city was already moving towards something far darker. Chapter 2. The Man with a Duty. Sugiyama Akira was not a soldier. He was a diplomat. His work involved communication, negotiation, and representing his nation. Those who knew him described him as disciplined and intelligent. He understood the dangers surrounding Beijing, but duty demanded action. Critical information needed to be delivered. Important contacts needed to be reached. The railway station had become an important point of concern. Foreign powers desperately needed information about what was happening beyond the city. On June 11, Sugiyama prepared to travel. It seemed risky, but not impossible. No one expected the journey to become a death sentence. Chapter 3. The Journey Begins. The morning air felt heavy. Dust drifted through the streets. Crowds gathered in unusual numbers. People whispered. People watched. The atmosphere felt wrong. Witnesses later recalled a growing sense of unease. As Sugiyama's carriage moved through the city, eyes followed him. Some recognized him immediately. Others simply saw a foreign official. But in those tense days, that alone could make someone a target. The further he traveled, the more dangerous the streets became. And somewhere ahead, armed men were waiting. Chapter 4. The Encounter. At first, it appeared to be an ordinary checkpoint. A group of soldiers blocked the road. Travelers were frequently questioned. Nothing seemed unusual. But this stop was different. The soldiers demanded answers. Voices became louder. The tension increased. Then came a realization. The man before them was not an ordinary traveler. He was a foreign diplomat. At that moment, the atmosphere changed completely. The road ahead vanished. The possibility of safety disappeared. And the nightmare began. Chapter 5. The Capture. History records that Sugiyama was seized by Qing soldiers. What happened next remains one of the most chilling moments of the Boxer Rebellion. There was no rescue, no diplomatic protection, no safe passage. The authority his position normally carried suddenly meant nothing. The city that day was being consumed by fear and anger. Rules were breaking down. Order was disappearing. People who should have been protected were becoming targets. Sugiyama found himself isolated, alone, surrounded by men who no longer viewed him as a diplomat, only as an enemy. Chapter 6. The Horror Unfolds. News traveled slowly in 1900. For hours, nobody knew exactly what had happened. Questions spread through diplomatic compounds. Where was he? Why hadn't he returned? Had he been delayed? Had he found shelter? No one knew. Then, reports began arriving. Disturbing reports. Witnesses spoke of violence. Witnesses spoke of a foreign official being attacked. The rumors became impossible to ignore. Something terrible had occurred. And as more information emerged, the truth became undeniable. Sugiyama Akira was dead. The city had crossed a line from which there would be no easy return. Chapter 7. The Body. One of the darkest moments came when details of his death reached foreign officials. The murder shocked diplomats across Beijing. Fear spread immediately. If a diplomat could be killed in broad daylight, who would be next? Embassies began preparing defenses. Barricades appeared. Weapons were distributed. People who had spent their lives negotiating peace suddenly found themselves preparing for war. The murder of one man had become a warning. The violence was no longer coming. It had arrived. Chapter 8. The Twist. Most people think this story is about a diplomat who was murdered. But history reveals something even darker. Sugiyama was not merely a victim. He became a signal. His death showed that the old protections had collapsed. The laws, the customs, the diplomatic agreements, all of them were suddenly powerless. The true horror was not that one man died. The true horror was that his death announced the beginning of a much larger catastrophe. Within days, Beijing would descend further into chaos. More killings would follow. More fear would spread. And thousands would find themselves trapped in one of the most dangerous crises of the era. Chapter 9. The City of Fear. Night fell over Beijing, but darkness brought no comfort. Gunfire echoed through distant streets. Families locked their doors. Foreign residents gathered inside fortified compounds. Every shadow seemed threatening. Every sound felt dangerous. Nobody knew who would survive. Nobody knew what tomorrow would bring. The city had become a place where fear was stronger than reason. And at the center of it all was the memory of a diplomat who had left for a simple journey and never returned. Chapter 10. The End of the Road. History remembers generals. History remembers battles. History remembers victories and defeats. But sometimes the most powerful stories belong to ordinary journeys. A carriage ride. A destination. A mission. A road that should have been safe. On June 11th, 1900, Sugiyama Akira began such a journey. He expected challenges. He expected danger. But he likely never imagined that his name would become part of history. His murder shocked nations. It changed perceptions. And it became one of the events that signaled the terrible violence that was about to engulf Beijing. The warning from history. More than a century has passed since that day. The streets have changed. The city has changed. The world has changed. But one lesson remains. Civilization can appear strong. Order can seem permanent. Peace can feel secure. Yet sometimes, all it takes is fear, anger, and division for everything to begin unraveling. Sugiyama Akira left on a journey expecting to arrive at his destination. Instead, he became a tragic warning recorded in history. And perhaps that is why this story still haunts us today. Because the scariest horrors are not ghosts. They are the moments when ordinary people wake up and discover that the world they trusted no longer exists. And for Sugiyama Akira, that realization came too late.